How are you doing? Pastor Chuck Blair here. Great to have you joining me on this beautiful spring morning. And today we're continuing to look on sort of at the more the sacred no side of things, of areas where it's good for us to take a look at where we might be falling a little bit short. And we're looking at that in terms of the context about how we learn, how we need to learn to be humbled by what we do not know, humbled by what we do not know. So the context is this. The context is we're looking at this very famous biblical scene where Eve is tempted by the serpent to eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And if you're not biblically familiar, we read this sort of as poetic truths. Here's Adam and Eve, metaphorically, the beginning of humanity, and she's being tempted to eat of this tree of which God said, don't eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and could read of everything else but that tree. Now it's fascinating, right? Because you would think that God would say, like, oh yeah, you need to figure out what's good and what's evil. And in a certain sense, obviously that's true. In a certain sense, we do really have to learn good and evil. Like, that's not what God is saying here. He's saying when we take on the role of God in terms of judging good and evil, that's what the problem is. So let's take a look at the temptation and then just chat about it a little bit. Then the serpent said to the woman, you will not surely die if you eat of the fruit of this tree, for God knows in the day you eat of it, your eyes will be opened and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. So here is the serpent, and think of this as applying to us, and the temptation for us is like, look, you can figure it all out and you will absolutely know good and evil in the same way God does. And I love the idea. Look, folks, are great, and we have to smile at ourselves because we're all such goofy human beings, right? That we have a choice between loving God or loving our opinion. Loving God or loving our opinion. One of the things I like to smile and offer to couples is you can either love your partner or you can love your opinion about your partner, which is more important to you. And that idea of loving God or loving our opinion, pretty darn stark, and it's a really good one to have to constantly look at. I find it for myself. I need to constantly check myself on that, because so often I really do love my opinion. I'm really pretty positive that my opinion has it and that I really know. So with other people, what does that mean? Well, that means one of the greatest things we can do is to really work at not judging other people's intention. I mean, that is kind of God's business, not ours. And that's where we can fall in love with our own opinion very, very easily, when we start to really, quote, know why somebody did something. And I think we've all been on the receiving end of that, where somebody told you, well, this is obviously why you're doing this. I know why you're doing this. And maybe they're right, but most of the time they're not. So we got to be super careful about that. We can judge actions, and we should always assume the best of intentions. So judge the action if that's necessary. Notice if that's necessary, and always assume the best of intentions. I know for me, with working with teenagers for a large part of my life, when there were disciplinary issues, oftentimes I would ask, what were you thinking? And a lot of the time the response was, I wasn't. And that's the honest response, right? They really weren't. It was not. Very few people. I mean, there are some people who are malicious, but for the most part, people aren't. We're just kind of asleep at the wheel when we make mistakes. So a little tangent off of this, and I'd urge you to take a look at it. Reverend Solomon Keel did an amazing sermon at the Bernathen Cathedral on Sunday, talking about judgment and goodwill and how goodwill and faith have to go together. It's a beautiful service. You can find it on the Bernathen Cathedral's website if you just scroll back to Sunday in their archive services. And the gist of it is this: when we fall in love with our opinions about other people and our deep judgments about other people, in other words, we're not only eating a piece of this fruit, we're eating the whole thing. We're so sure we can be like God in understanding. He used that as ice. He used an example of that as ice, which is a very common metaphor in New Church theology. That truth, when it's frozen, when it doesn't have love in it, it's actually deeply wounding and hurtful. Nothing can grow. And I love this little analogy that he did. I thought this was really good. So we got props today. Here's something we want to grow, but I can't water it with ice. I can't water it with ice. this cannot be watered by this. The only way I can water this with this is for this to melt. And what is it that melts things? Well, it's love that melts things. It's love that allows things to flow and allow things to be nourished and allows things to be hydrated. That's very, very, very important, and I think a beautiful insight there from him. So that's kind of the takeaway, folks. Is don't conflate love of God and love of your own opinion. Know that they're two different things, and that's why, again, like, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. I mean, that's the primary commandment, because that's what we got to keep on looking at, not falling in love with our own opinion. Because when we do, we start to eat from that tree. When we start to eat from that tree, our judgments become sort of cold as ice. They become hard and rigid, and it's not going to hydrate anything. It's not going to help anyone, and it's not going to move the world forward. And that's just, I think that's super important, to have that sort of that softness and that grace, and to just learn, yeah, you know what, I'm just going to give up on judging other people's intentions. I mean, today, maybe our takeaway is just that simple, sacred no. For today, I will judge no one's intentions. And again, just, you can judge their actions if that's necessary. And with their intentions, always assume the best. Always assume the best. So there's a little thought for today, folks. And I hope that helps you to, and helps me to just remember, again, we need to be humbled by what we do not know. Humbled by what we do not know. So, folks, what we're going to do now is we're going to do a little meditation. We're going to do a little prayer. We're going to do a little blessing. And after all that, I'm going to offer a little hello to folks who are joining us on social media. All right, let's get a little breath here, friends. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I. Be still and know that. Be still and know. Be still and. Be still. Be. Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so upon the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you, bring you peace, and bring you home. Amen. All right, friends. And a little quick social media hello to people. And again, I hope you're doing well. I hope you have a great day ahead. I know a lot of us feel like we were dodging all these big storms yesterday, but it sure is looking beautiful out there this morning. All right, almost got it keyed up here. All right, so our comments for today. Let's take a look here. Teresa writes, good morning from out in Pittsburgh. And Teresa, thank you for your phone call yesterday. That was very helpful, and I'm sure you heard echoes of that in today's little talk. Martha, great to have you joining us this morning. And I have your book and I'm going to get it started. So I'm looking forward to that. Sherry, great to see you joining us this morning. And I just love that little sunflower there. Teresa writes, I love that phrasing. I'm so glad. Rick, good morning from Southwest Virginia, trucking home and able to listen in. Rick, I am so glad to see you joining us here. And I love the name of your radio show. Like that is way fun. Sherry, great to have you joining us this morning as well. And I hope you're having a great day. Marcus, good morning to you, buddy. And you know what? Great word. Did you see how Solomon preached it? Like it was two people. I mean, I always feel like God has to tell me things twice. So two people texted me on Sunday morning, were like, Chuck, you got to listen to this great sermon by Solomon Keel. And it was well worth it. Gene, look for the good and assume the best. I mean, that's really it, right? And it's interesting, Gene, right? Because so much of the time we think of that, well, you know what? If I look for the good and assume the best, that's not very realistic, and that'll make me soft. And that is just not true. Just simply not true. The people I want to hang out with are people who look for good and assume the best, because when my experience is when those people speak, they speak with a lot of import. You know, they choose their words wisely. Their words tend to be very honest and interesting. And anyhow, like it's a great point. Susan, great to have you joining us, and good morning to you as well. And Teresa leaves us with this great closing phrase: humbled by what we do not know. And that is so important. May we all know a little day of humility and grace and connection. So as always, friends, thank you very much, and God bless. Have an incredible day. And we'll see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.